Welcome to Module 5 of the Qlause Internal Auditor course. Module 4 was collection, the fieldwork, the interviews, the evidence. This module is where the audit's product gets made, evaluating evidence into findings, writing nonconformity statements that survive challenge, grading honestly, drawing conclusions, and running a closing meeting that lands findings without warfare. It maps to clauses 6.4 and 6.5 of ISO 19011. The usual reminder on method. The allocated time covers the whole approach, the study guide, the referenced clauses in your licensed copy of the standard, this video, then the quiz. This video is the guided lesson inside that method. After this module, you will be able to do 5 things. Evaluate evidence against criteria to produce findings, including conformity findings, which are real findings. Write nonconformity statements with the 3-part anatomy that survives challenge. Grade findings on system impact, consistently and without diplomacy inflation. Draw audit conclusions that actually answer the audit objectives. And run a closing meeting that lands findings without warfare. Let me frame the module in one sentence. Findings are the audit's product. Everything before them is collection. Everything after them is delivery. And the quality bar for that product is simple to state. A finding should be so factually grounded that the auditee's own expert, reading it cold, says, that is true, even while disliking it. Reaching that bar is a writing discipline as much as an auditing one, and that is what this module teaches. From evidence to finding. Lay the evidence against the criteria and ask the only question that matters. Met or not met? There are 3 honest outcomes: conformity, and record it. Positive findings are findings. They define the boundary of the problem, and they buy credibility for everything else in your report. Nonconformity, a requirement not fulfilled, on evidence. An opportunity for improvement. The process conforms, but a visibly better way exists. Notice that no requirement is cited on an OFI, because no requirement is breached. Guard that boundary fiercely. Because here is the corruption that quietly destroys internal audit programs. An OFI is not a diplomatic nonconformity. An NC downgraded to an OFI to keep the peace is not tact. It is a falsified audit result. The requirement was not met on evidence, and the record now says otherwise. Hold the line. If a requirement is breached, it is a nonconformity, whatever the conversation costs. Now the anatomy of a nonconformity, and this is the heart of the module. 3 parts every time. Part 1, the requirement. The standard clause or the organization's own documented process, quoted precisely. Not the standard says somewhere, the clause. Part 2, the evidence. Objective, specific, traceable. What was seen, where, when, which record, which sample. Part 3, the statement. 1 sentence naming the gap between the evidence and the requirement. No opinions, no advice, no blame. All 3 present, and you have a finding that survives challenge. Anyone missing, and what you have is an argument. Let me be precise about what stays out of that statement, because each exclusion has a reason. No opinions. Housekeeping is poor, is a feeling, not a finding. No advice. The company should purchase, is consulting, and the moment you prescribe the fix, you own it. No blame. The supervisor failed to, makes it about a person, and the system is on trial, not the people. And no diagnosis dressed as a finding. Lack of training caused, is cause analysis, and cause analysis is the auditee's job under ISO 9001's Clause 10.2. Preempting it both oversteps your role and lets the auditee off the analytical hook. State the gap. Stop there. Here is the difference in practice. The weak version. Calibration is not well controlled in the machine shop. No requirement, no evidence, pure opinion. It can be challenged by simply disagreeing with it. The strong version, QP 007, Section 4.2, requires measuring instruments used for product acceptance to be calibrated at defined intervals. Micrometer M112, in use at final inspection on the 14th of May, carried a calibration label that expired on the 9th of February. And the calibration register showed no record after that date. This does not conform to QP 007, Section 4.2. Requirement, evidence, statement. The only way to challenge it is to disprove the facts, and if the facts are wrong, you want to know now, not after the report. Grading. Most systems use the scale on this slide. A major nonconformity is a breakdown, a required element absent or collapsed, a breach likely to reach customers or regulators, or a pervasive pattern of minors all telling one story. A minor nonconformity is an isolated lapse in an otherwise functioning control the system holds. An opportunity for improvement conforms, but a better way is visible. And conformity, record it, it is evidence too. The rule underneath all four: grade on system impact, never on how awkward the conversation will be. 3 tests keep grading honest. First, could this plausibly ship non-conforming product or breach a legal requirement? If yes, you are looking at something serious. Second, is the control absent or merely imperfect? Absence points to major, imperfection to minor. Third, is this the third minor in the same discipline? Because repeated minors in one area aggregate into a systemic story, and your report should say so as a systemic statement. And then the other half of honesty. What never enters the equation? How senior the process owner is, how awkward the closing meeting becomes, and how close the certification audit looms. The moment any of those move a grade, the program has stopped auditing and started negotiating. From findings to conclusions. Findings are the trees. The conclusion is the forest. Conclusions answer the audit objectives at system level, the management system's conformity and effectiveness across the scope, the themes that run across findings and, where the objectives asked for them, readiness verdicts. A report that lists 12 findings but never answers, so how healthy is the system, has delivered data and withheld the judgment it was commissioned for. The closing meeting. 5 moves, in order. Thank the auditee and acknowledge what was strong. It builds credibility, and it is true. Present the findings one by one, requirement, evidence, statement, inviting factual correction as you go. Distinguish the grades and explain them. An auditee who understands why something is major argues less than one who only hears the word. Agree the corrective action expectations and the timeline. And where disagreement persists, state it and state how it will be resolved. Fair presentation requires reporting unresolved divergence, not burying it to get out of the room. And the principle that makes that meeting work. Because every finding was raised when it was found. On the floor, in the moment, verified with the auditee on the spot. Nothing at the closing meeting is news. The meeting confirms, it does not reveal. If a finding lands as a surprise at closing, the failure happened during fieldwork, and no amount of meeting technique will fully repair it. The auditor's lens. What will be checked? When an internal finding is challenged, the challenge always attacks the weakest of the 3 parts: an imprecise requirement citation, unverifiable evidence, or a statement that, smuggled in, opinion. And certification auditors read your internal audit reports with exactly that eye. 3-part findings in your internal reports are themselves evidence. Evidence of program competence under ISO 9001's Clause 9.2. Your findings are being audited too. Write them accordingly. The practice note, and it is a writing habit. Draft your findings on site while the evidence is in front of you. Then read each one aloud to yourself with the auditee's expert in mind, and strike every word that is not requirement, evidence, or gap. If the sentence survives that edit, it will survive the meeting. And here is the test worth memorizing. If a finding needs adjectives to feel strong, it is not strong. Seriously inadequate is a plea. A batch number is a fact. Let us gather the module up. Findings are evidence evaluated against criteria, and conformity findings are real findings. Record them. The NC anatomy is requirement, traceable evidence, and a 1-sentence gap. No opinion, no advice, no blame, no cause. An OFI is not a diplomatic NC, and downgrading to keep the peace falsifies the audit. Grade on system impact and legal or customer reach. Seniority and awkwardness never enter. Repeated minors in one discipline aggregate into a systemic story, and the report should say so. And the closing meeting confirms what fieldwork already raised, with unresolved disagreement reported, not buried. That is Module 5. Before you move on, reread Module 5 in the study guide, especially the worked example, weak against strong, until the difference is reflexive. Read clauses 6.4 and 6.5 in your licensed copy of the standard. Then take the Module 5 quiz. 10 questions, pass mark 80%, with a fresh attempt after targeted restudy if you fall short. Module 6 carries the product to delivery, the audit report, corrective action, verifying effectiveness rather than paperwork, and closing the audit properly.